Hey folks, this is Kalani. Season 2 of The War Within is making drastic, sweeping changes to the endgame pillars of World of Warcraft. The way in which raid rewards are being earned is changing quite considerably, and Dells will be receiving a huge update as well. But Mythic plus Keystones may be receiving the largest changes right now. The dev team just announced a huge list of updates that would make gearing up in Season 2 so much easier and faster if you're running Mythic plus dungeons. We'll see affixes moved around yet again so that you don't have any at all for some of the early keys. Rewards are being increased so you'll get better gear earlier, and you'll be able to earn more crests at lower key levels as well, and the dungeons themselves will see massive nerfs to make Mythic plus keys much easier to complete. We're going to go over all of these changes and see just how easy gearing up is going to be in Season 2. Now before we jump in, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. Let's start by talking about the rewards and how they're improving. Mythic plus dungeons are in a bit of an odd spot in Season 1 due to the availability of gear from other easier sources like Delves. You could quite comfortably get your hands on hero gear from the Delve system, and wouldn't you know it, you could do it all by yourself. No pesky groups to sign up for or make, no having to worry about classes or metas, just hit up your pal Bran and go at your own pace. Those easy rewards kind of made keys below +7 obsolete, even if you hadn't ever stepped foot into a Mythic plus dungeon. That's not ideal because then no one really wants to run any lower keys, but you kinda have to do the lower keys to learn the mechanics in dungeons, otherwise you're setting yourself up for failure. Jumping in at the +7 mark means you're immediately faced with all kinds of stacking difficulties. So part of this puzzle is making the dungeon system more rewarding, especially at the lower key levels. To start with, Mythic 0 dungeons will now reward you with champion track gear from each boss instead of veteran gear, so those rewards have been bumped up slightly, and they will have a lot more upgrade potential when compared to Season 1. Those rewards will be on a weekly lockout again, and the dungeons will become a little bit harder to work through, but the increased rewards should be worth it for anyone wanting to test the waters at the lower end of the dungeon system. And then quite a few reward breakpoints have shifted downwards in the Mythic plus Keystone system too. Most notably, hero gear will now become available from +6 keys, so you'll get that higher upgrade track 1 key level earlier when compared to Season 1. Runed crests start dropping immediately at +2 keys instead of +4 keys, so you'll be able to gather up runed crests much easier, and because they drop sooner in the system, you can then also get up to 18 runed crests per Mythic plus key you run, thanks to the new crest reward scaling system. Gilded crests will now drop at Keystone 7, down from 8, so both high tiers of crests will be easier to collect, which will allow you to upgrade your gear without as much effort. So Mythic plus dungeons will be more rewarding in general, especially towards the lower end, but that's not even the most important change for Season 2. Not only will they be more rewarding, but Mythic plus dungeons are shaping up to be significantly easier in the new season as well. I'm not talking about a minor adjustment here or there, almost every pain point in the system is being addressed. To start with, the extra scaling for monster health and damage per key level has been reduced. In Season 1 it was a 10% increase per key level, so each key was 10% harder than the previous one. For Season 2 that scaling has been knocked down to 7% per key level. This one change means that across the board, dungeons are just going to be much easier to run and complete. The scaling does bump back up to 10% per key level for keys 11 and above, but even those will be easier thanks to the lower scaling from earlier keys. In addition, affixes are being shifted around yet again. Here's how it works in Season 1. You get the Xalatath affixes at key level 2, Tyrannical or Fortified, depending on the week, at key level 4, Challenger's Peril at key level 7, that's the one that tanks your timer if you die, and then the other affix from Tyrannical or Fortified comes in at key level 10, then we get Xalatath's Guile at key level 12. In Season 2, the Xalatath affixes won't appear until key level 4, which means +2 and +3 keys won't have any affixes whatsoever, just a timer and some increased stats on the enemies, so that'll be much easier to learn and get used to. You'll then get Tyrannical or Fortified at key level 7, with the other one at key level 10, so you also don't see those huge difficulty spikes with these large buffs to enemies or bosses until at least key level 7, making keys 4, 5, and 6 so much easier than before on top of all of the other changes. At key level 12 we're going to see Xalatat's Guile again, but instead of the 10% increase to enemy health, Guile will have the effects of Challenger's Peril, so you'll need to watch your timer and deaths more at 12 and above, but by that point you're probably getting pretty good at this whole Mythic Plus thing, so that shouldn't matter quite as much. But this also reads like plus 12 keys and above should be easier without Guile further increasing the stats of enemies as well. So Mythic Plus keys up to 6 should be so much easier when compared to Season 1, and they're also going to be so much more rewarding. And then if you can brave the Fortified or Tyrannical affix, you can step up to plus 7 and start reliably earning Gilded Crests. This should make it much easier for every kind of player to dip their toes into Mythic Plus dungeons, and it actually gives you a reason to push a bit further. Mythic Plus dungeons were pretty difficult in Season 1, so much so that a lot of folks seem to lose interest quite quickly. I don't think the only answer is to just make Mythic Plus dungeons easier, but I do think it's at least part of the equation for sure. I'll be very interested to see how Season 2 shapes up and how many players jump into Mythic Plus for the first time. That's all of the general changes for the system, but there are also quite a lot of targeted nerfs and updates for individual dungeons as well. There's a strong focus on reducing complexity of trash monsters, increasing cast times on important spells to give you more time to actually interrupt them, reducing the frequency of tank busters or giving them better telegraphs, and the overall number of threats in each trash pack has been reduced. These changes will be dungeon dependent, but learning dungeons and actually progressing through them should be so much easier if the overall complexity is being reduced. And then there are also some changes for the higher end of the system as well. You may have seen the new Keystone Legend achievement that prevents your keys from depleting too far and rewards you with a new mount. Well, that achievement will be changing slightly. For starters, you'll need to reach 3000 Mythic Plus rating, up from the previous requirement of 2850. But when you consider that dungeons will be quite a bit easier now, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. But what is a big deal is that the feature that prevented your keys from depleting has been decoupled from the achievement, and it has been improved quite significantly. So instead of earning the achievement and then your keys never go below 12 unless you do it manually, it's now tied to your dungeon completions. So if you run every dungeon on plus 12 and complete them within the timer, your future keys will not deplete below a plus 12. The cool part here is that this isn't just a static floor anymore, so if you manage to time every key on plus 13, your future keys will not deplete below plus 13. The same goes for every key level up, so this really encourages you to complete every dungeon on those higher key levels to increase your minimum key level, and it also means you don't have to worry about your key dropping too far in any given week. That should make it way more enjoyable and more reliable to push keys higher in the new season. So to recap, you're going to get better rewards earlier in the Keystone system. Dungeons will be much easier across the board with affixes starting later and a smaller scaling buff. We'll see specific dungeon tuning with a focus on making trash packs simpler to understand, with important or deadly abilities telegraphed with extra time to respond to the really bad stuff. Pushing keys should be easier as well with the new key floor mechanic in place, so all in all, Mythic Plus dungeons are shaping up to be much better in Season 2, which is very interesting because they're also going to have to compete with the new and improved Delve system, which became even more rewarding as well. Curiously, this kinda leaves raids behind a little bit. It will now be much easier to obtain gear via delves on Mythic Plus dungeons, and while raids have the new renown track to progress through, a lot of the good rewards are so far down the line that you'd have to wait until almost the end of the season to get your hands on them. We also haven't seen any item level adjustments to raid rewards, so it will be interesting to see what kinds of content players will prefer to do for their gearing adventures in patch 11.1 and Season 2 of The War Within. But that's how Mythic Plus dungeons are changing as we head into the new season, and why gearing up is going to be so much easier and faster. So that's it for this video. What do you think of Mythic Plus dungeons becoming easier across the board? Will this make running dungeons more enticing for you, or do you think it may end up just being too boring if it's too easy? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to all of our members here on YouTube. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you're interested in supporting the channel, channel, you can find links in the description or click the join button just below the video. If you enjoyed the video or found it useful in any way, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you're always kept up to date. Thanks for watching, folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.